Now to the main topic for the day, expectations for the year 2017, which we started off on Monday. But today we have just two guests from our Abuja studios, and they'll be looking at the issues. We have Hashim Suleiman. He's the coordinator of 30% Youth Inclusion, and he joins us from Abuja, as well as Aliyu Abdullahi, who is a policy analyst and a legal practitioner. Gentlemen, good to have you join us this evening on Politics Today. Let's quickly start with Hashim Suleiman, who is the coordinator of 30% Youth Inclusion. Perhaps you should tell us what this is about and what your expectations are on behalf of the youth.
Yeah, thank you, Suleiman. Basically, the call came or started because some of us who are visionary youths sat and thought and started to see things that could come up as the nation was progressing, and we knew that, of course, things are changing generally around the world in life, and then things were going to start to become complex, and so we knew, of course, that there was a need for human resources to really be the top priority if anybody wants to achieve anything as things get complex. And so we thought we should come up with such call that, of course, going forward there was going to be need for critical human resource, and we know, of course, that those resources are going to be most available in the youths. And so we thought we should come together, think about how to speak to the elderly who are basically holding forth most of the leadership and whatever it is that's happening about moving the country, that we should come together and tell them that there's going to be a lot of resource in the youths and that they should tap into that. But we're not just basically talking about that alone. We're also talking to the youths themselves to also act and behave as though they could be able to handle such responsibilities when they're being given, so then it was a two-way thing. But we also know, of course, very well that there are a whole lot of youths out there in this country who have been able to do so much for themselves and that could be able to handle these responsibilities when they get them. So basically, we were telling the government, and we're not only talking to the government, but private sector companies, everybody, parties, to patronize the resource in the youth, but then we're not just telling them to just go out there, pick up any youth and just put them where they should. They should be critical about the recruitment process, because when you're critical about the recruitment process, then you're going to come along those basic resources you're going to need, and of course, definitely your delivery and what have you will be so smooth. And of course, if you look at basically what's happening right now and most of the things that people are talking about, you see that somehow we're vindicated, because what are the things that people are talking about right now? They're talking about slow paces and what have you, and these are part of the things we know that are embedded in the Nigerian youths. Even when you look at those sectors that the youths have chosen to go and do, the music industry, the entertainment industry, that the youth chose to just go and develop by themselves, you can see how fast they'll be able to develop this industry. So that is part of the signs that will show you, yes, that Nigerian youths have a whole lot to deliver, and that when the recruitment process is right about the Nigerian youths, then definitely you're going to be so surprised about how your delivery is going to be so smooth.
I'll hold you on that when we come back to you. But this time, let's bring in Aliyu Abdullahi, who is a lawyer and a policy analyst. He's just talked about the move, and which is perhaps the pace. You're also a Nigerian youth. Perhaps you could speak to what he's just highlighted, looking at the relationship between the executive and the legislature in the past year. For this year, how much of speed and urgency are you expecting from the two arms of government?
Thank you, Suleiman, and first of all, Happy New Year to you and the entire Channels Television. Hashim spoke about youth involvement in issues of governance and also across the board in the country. That's a very wonderful thing to do. And of course, looking at the relationship between the executive and the legislature in the past year, that's 2016, it hasn't been a very rosy one, or a smooth one, I would say, because there have been a lot of tension, and then a lot of motions, or let me say requests were submitted from the executive arm, which were actually either outrightly rejected or sent back, or requests for more information by the legislator. And that has really impacted significantly on what we are on the pace that a lot of people are saying, the slow pace of governance and so on. If you look at, for example, the request of the 30 billion made by Mr. President recently, what is that $30 billion was supposed to be for? It was supposed to be for capital spending, infrastructure development that will have significant impact on the economy of the country, in job creation, which directly actually affects youth more than any demography of the country. Now, unless we see a situation where the National Assembly work closely with the executive arm, then all the promises made by this administration, they're going to have a little bit of slow pace issues, because this president, one thing we always know, with this president, Muhammad Buhari, is he would never go out of the law to execute anything. He will always work within the confines of the law. That's the Constitution. What does the Constitution say? So if the Constitution says you have to go to the National Assembly before you borrow money, or before you do a certain A, B, C, D project, he wouldn't do it, no matter how he wants to do it, unless he has that approval from the National Assembly. But hopefully, what we saw recently, from the statement by the Senate President, even by the President himself, it seems like there is a consensus, a meeting of the mind between the two.
I think if you let me interject there, Ali Abdullah, I think for some Nigerians, they will think, I think quite on the contrary. They think that the president is slow in bringing some of these things even before the National Assembly. Don't forget that Nigerian missions abroad and a couple of other things are yet to be filled. Agencies are yet to be filled up by new heads and people to pilot the affairs of these agencies. Do you also think that this has to do with anything about the rule of law as highlighted by you?
Well, part of it has to do with politics of first the politics of let me say the party politics. Then secondly, it has to do with the president trying to get the right people for the right positions and jobs. If we go the old ways of just rewarding politicians with positions, then the government, the administration would not be different from what the people of Nigeria voted out in 2015. So I think I believe the president wants to actually get the right people. Now you have had comments actually against some of the ministers, against some of the appointees of this government, that they are either square pegs in round holes or vice versa. So if the president takes his own time to actually put the right people in the right position, I think that would be for the good of the country.
Let me bring in Hashim here. Hashim, for the youth, do you think that the president or the government of the day has done enough for the youth in terms of putting them in governance and to pilot the affairs of some of the key agencies and even parastatals?
No, not at all. And this brings me back to the issue of the recruitment that I'm talking about, the recruitment process. Of course, we know a few youth have come on board, but to be honest with you, based on the ideologies of my own group and where I'm coming from, I don't think they really represent that particular class of youth that we are looking at or that we're talking about. For example, if you go back to the 2015 elections itself, both of the parties, the major parties, the mechanisms and all of the campaign strategies were put out by youths. the social media and what have you. APC was brought on board by social media. A lot of youths who were there to make the whole thing so creamy, made the youths to understand the need to come and join the trend. But as soon as we got into the governance, we did not see all those youths again. They were not where to be found. Then we started to see some other youths who we didn't even know, probably because they were close to somebody or somewhere, and they came on board. And then there's no way you can be able to get delivery with such kind of recruitment processes. I have been an engineer, I'm a geologist, and I worked in a whole lot of organizations, and those organizations that did proper recruitment, I tell you, they succeeded very well. But those ones that were just about nepotism and bringing people who they knew, the companies always crashed. So these things are just simple and they're there to be seen. For example, the National Assembly documents we're talking about, we know the National Assembly said that those documents were probably not complete, the details of the loan and what have you was not there. I am very, very sure that if it was a youth who knows about it, who knows his onions, who has been there, who has been able to do things for himself, he'll be able to articulate those things, put them into proper perspective, and then you go around and see how youths do packaging nowadays. See their documentation of things when they want to go about looking for things they want to do and all that. So these things are there. We're the ones on the street. We're the ones who are talking with the youths, and we know basically that Nigerian youths have a whole lot. When you meet them, get the recruitment process proper, you're going to be amazed at the kind of things that Nigerian youths